Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Broken Brian. And today, I'm going to go over something that I just found out about today. I was just scrolling through social media and saw a screen capture that I thought was probably fake, saying that Panasonic's new battery plant is going to have to build a coal plant to power it. And I thought, oh, that's kind of funny. That's probably false. That's not true. But I started doing some digging and looking into it just out of curiosity, and sure enough, it's partly true. And it's kind of funny. And a lot of the ESG people are very upset about it, but it's kind of a weird scenario. Not weird, but it's a predictable scenario. So I'm going to break this down real quick because a lot of people hadn't heard of it. I talked to a few people after this, and they were like, nope, never heard about that, never saw it in the news, nothing. Just wasn't major news for a lot of people, and I can understand why. It's not a huge thing that you need to worry about or would make headlines. But basically, what is happening is Panasonic is going to be building a giant factory in Kansas to build and manufacture batteries for electric vehicles. Great, it needs to be done. If that's the road we're heading and that's the path we're going to take, that's going to be that's a necessary step. Glad it's here in the U.S. More jobs, helping boost the economy. Good thing, but it has a downside, and this is probably one of the things that another article I read a couple days ago were referring to, that the actual environmental impact of an electric vehicle is larger than a combustible engine vehicle. The environmental impact overall, the lifetime of the car, there's more of a global impact for an electric vehicle than a standard car. So this may be one of the things that included in that study. I didn't read the details of the study. I'm not sure it was linked in the article, to be honest with you. But either way, Panasonic is not building a coal plant, which was kind of how it seemed. A couple articles that I picked and looked at were alluding that Panasonic's having to build a coal plant to power its new battery plant. And yes and no. Panasonic's not doing it. I think it's called Energy or something like that. That's the power company in the state of Kansas that does all the power lines and the substations and everything that allows power to be built and created and distributed around the state of Kansas. They are having to build a coal plant to meet the electrical needs of this plant, which every article seems to say is the equivalent of a small city for this one plant. And when it comes to manufacturing, that makes sense. It's going to have a lot of energy requirements to run machinery, to make things and process and do things. It's going to be more than your typical area. Kansas does already have a 50%, near 50% usage of solar, wind, and nuclear power that it gets its energy from. Its grid gets the energy from. So it's not like they're not doing anything, not using other resources, but it is kind of funny that to make something more substantially, supposedly better for the environment, it has to be powered by something that those same people say is the worst for the environment. But you have to remember everything in context. As I saw, there was a video floating around on one of the transportation committee meetings in the Senate that they pointed out how much percent of CO2 do you think is our atmosphere made of, and a lot of the people testifying and the head of these departments were like 5, 6, 7% is CO2 in our atmosphere, when in reality it's 0.04. 0.04. That's 400th of a percent. And at 0.02, plant life starts to die because there's not enough CO2 for plants to live on. So for decades before this, we're at 0.03. We've gone up 100th of a percent in the past 4 decades, give or take. 100th of a percent. So it's one of those, yes, there's some scare tactics involved in this, and yes, this isn't a good thing. But I live in Texas, and solar power is a good option for me in theory. Where I'm at, not a lot of shade, a lot of sun all the time. Hey, we're known to have droughts about every other year because there's no clouds in the sky whatsoever. So it could work well for me. Even though it could work well for me, the cost is prohibitive. Seriously, like solar panels, no matter what you go through, if you go, I literally have at least once a month some other company knocking on my door trying to sell me solar panels for my home. It doesn't work out. I dismantle their arguments pretty quick when I run the numbers because if you do the leasing option, you're going to end up paying significantly more, and if you outright buy them and have them installed, your return on your investment is at least 40 years before you have a true return on investment in that 40 years. 40. I've run the numbers. And here's the problem with some of this. And when I dismantled the arguments, it's like what they don't tell people is what other impact that has to do. You have to call your homeowners insurance. Be like, how much more is this going to cost per to cover roof solar panels on my roof? I talked to my agent, and I actually talked to another agent who's a friend of mine, and he goes, "You got a good number from them. We charge significantly more." But basically, you're looking at a 30 to 45% increase on your homeowner's insurance to cover your solar panels. And they also have an addendum on both the different companies I talked to. If you remove the panels, the damage done to your roof isn't covered by insurance. You have to pay that outright. So if you got panels on your house and all of a sudden, boom, hey, I changed my mind, I want to take them off. There's usually about a $4,000 removal fee for all the equipment, all that. That's $4,000 to remove the equipment. And then, depending on the size of your home and all the different angles, for me in my area, it's 6 to 8 grand, and that was a quote I got 8 years ago. 8 years ago. I don't have a huge house. I have a very small house. So if you got solar panels and decide to change your mind, you're going to need like 12 grand out of pocket to get rid of solar panels. And so if you change your mind, this is just the equipment and the whole cost is prohibitive. And that's kind of like what I'm seeing here. It's not that we don't want electric vehicles. We don't want better things for that. This wave of technology is not the one to invest in now. The next evolution of this technology is probably where we're going to actually see benefits. The cost of producing is going to be lower. We won't need as many fossil fuels to power the plants to make it. The technology will be quicker, easier, cheaper, things like that. And that's why a lot of people are up in arms. Yes, this is a good first step. This is not the solution. This is a good first step to get us to the technology we truly need. What that is, I don't know. But we didn't know when we went from horses to the Model T that things would keep evolving and getting better and finally reach its stalling point. Electric cars is in its infancy, and it's got to continuing to improve and things like that. And this is just the cost of us getting to that next step. Uh, Honestly, it's going to be a long time before I own an electric vehicle. Uh, I like to travel. I like to take road trips. Uh, my kids and I went to Kentucky last summer. We traveled, made lots of stops. We went out to Kentucky and back, visited family along the way, and just had a great time. Spent a week doing it. If I did that in an electric vehicle, that trip would have taken me 3 weeks because the amount of stops we'd have to be stopping more frequently, charging for hours. It's just not possible. And so we don't like to fly. We like to see and meet people and see the things and experience what's going on in all these places. That's just who we are. And I was just like, this is just one of those. I don't like it. I wouldn't if I can't drive across the state of Texas without recharging, then I'm not going to buy an electric vehicle. I can drive from Red River to Brownsville on a single tank of gas in my vehicle. It's not the most fuel efficient, but I can do it. No, yeah, I could. No, I don't. I exaggerated. I could probably go from the Red River to San Antonio in my vehicle. I think I definitely have to refuel in San Antonio before I made it to the border. That's just north to south. I got to be able to do at least the border, the north border to San Antonio in one charge. Otherwise, an electric vehicle is just not viable, especially if you live in the state of Texas. I mean, everyone's like, "Oh, it's like 10 minutes." Like, we literally will drive 2 hours to go eat dinner to another town way over there just because we like that place. So this is a good step in the right direction. I know a lot of people up in arms about it, but it is true. To meet the energy requirements for a battery plant in Kansas, they're going to have to build a $4 billion coal plant to meet the energy needs to run the plant to make the batteries, which still is funny. I know people don't think it is, but think about it. It's funny. It just is. It's humorous. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's humorous. And this is just, like I said, this is a baby step into getting to the next improvement, the next wave of technology, how solar panels, the new technology to increase the energy consumption, energy collection in these panels, and the transmission, more efficiency, and things like that. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. Absolutely. But we're not there now. So we have to accept that this is a cost of us getting things on that base level of improving solar technology. And will solar technology be the technology that takes off and takes over the world? Probably not. Will electric vehicles be that? Probably not. Will it be something? Yeah. Will we see it coming? Don't know. But all I do know is this is a step and this is the necessary thing to be done to get us to that next step. So that's just one of these weird things that I found out today. Had no clue about it because I don't live in Kansas and didn't really make headline news that I saw. This is an article that goes back to October of last year. So it is what it is. So I know people are upset about it, but these are type of things we're going to have to do to push technology forward. And I do not think a coal plant in the United States is going to have an environmental impact based on anything we've seen in the East. There's a lot more we need to address there before we have to worry too much about what's going on here. That's my personal opinion. Discuss if you like, but that's what it is. It's my opinion. So, now I've informed you of just something I found completely hilarious today, that this statement exists. Coal plant has to be built to build a battery plant. So, to all my friends and everyone else out there, remember, I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it.